Welcome to the Post and Courier's Palmetto Politics Live Greenville Mayoral Debate. I'm Sam Hall, the managing editor of the Post and Courier. This forum is a part of a series of events that we are doing across South Carolina. And it's also a part of our ongoing political coverage, which is anchored by the Palmetto Politics newsletter, which you can subscribe to at www.postandcourier.com. Tonight's event is co-sponsored by the Greenville Chamber of Commerce, and it's made possible through the financial support of AARP South Carolina. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Patrick Cobb with AARP South Carolina to offer a few remarks.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of AARP, I want to thank you for being here as we look at our 615,000 members across South Carolina and about our 45,000 in Greenville County. I want to thank you for your support in our organization as we advocate for those 50 and older on housing, healthcare, economy, and jobs, and things that are very important to you and your local community. It's important, as we also note, that AARP, we're nonpartisan, we don't endorse candidates, and we don't give money to candidates, so we'll be the ones outside the door not writing the checks as you leave, but we do have a table full of snacks, some giveaways, and if you'd like to join our community team here in Greenville, which is up and running, I'll be glad to talk to you about it. It's a great opportunity to get involved and learn more about Greenville and meeting your friends and neighbors. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Patrick, and again, thank you to AARP South Carolina. I also want to thank the Kroc Center for providing the space for tonight's debate. Tonight, we have two candidates for mayor. They are, in alphabetical order, challenger and former City Councilwoman Michelle Shane, and incumbent Mayor Knox White. Now, I'd also like to introduce this evening's panelist. Eric Connor is the local editor for the Post and Courier here in Greenville. And Jason Zacher is the Senior Vice President of the Greenville Chamber of Commerce. Finally, before we begin, let me quickly touch on the ground rules for this evening's debate. In just a moment, each candidate will be given 2 minutes for opening remarks. The order was chosen by a pre-debate coin flip. Mayor Knox White will go first. After opening remarks, our panelists will ask questions of each candidate, rotating between the two candidates in the same order as the opening remarks. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. Any rebuttals, where allowed by the moderator or the panelist, will be limited to 1 minute. The discussion may extend with additional responses at the discretion of the panelist or moderator. Panelists are also allowed to ask related follow-up questions. Questions have not been shared in advance with the candidates. At the conclusion of the debate, each candidate will be given 1 minute for closing remarks in the same order. We want everyone to be able to share their vision for the mayor's office, but we also want to stay on time and get to as many questions as possible. I will monitor the time during the responses and will let you know when time expires. Our timekeeper, sitting right down front, will also hold up signs to let you know as time counts down, and we have the counter there on the screen. Candidates, please avoid talking over or interrupting each other. And members of the audience, please do not applaud during or after the candidates' remarks. We want to maintain a neutral forum where all can be heard. With that, let's begin with our opening remarks. Mayor, you get to go first.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're in a church today. Everybody say amen. And here we are. Thank you very much to the Post and Courier for making this possible and the Greenville Chamber of Commerce. Really do appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. I grew up in Greenville, grew up off of Ferris Road, and when I became mayor, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I said it 100 times, it seemed, in the early days. I wanted to make Greenville the most beautiful and livable city in America. I used to say that all the time in the early days, and every time I did, I could visibly see people rolling their eyes. Because it was a very different Greenville then. And I can't blame them. I mean, at that point, the Poinsett Hotel was shuttered. Main Street had beautiful trees and wide sidewalks, but nobody under the trees. Retail was shuttered on Main Street. We had something else too. People were literally fleeing the neighborhoods of Greenville. Our city population for 40 years went consistently down, decade after decade. Right here, in this neighborhood here. It was concrete, wasteland, no residential over here at all. Toxic waste sites, in fact, all across here. and where you have today the Kroc Center, the Wittenberg School, and of course Unity Park. So things have changed a lot. But one thing about Greenville is, I always tell people this, it's never been a city that'll rest on its laurels. We're never finished. And we never, ever ignore our shortcomings. We own up to them. We don't put our head in the sand. So tonight, I hope we talk about issues, but I really hope we talk about solutions. Because what I'm passionate about is doing big things and solving complicated problems. I like to talk about solutions. So tonight, I hope we talk about how we're going to close the affordable housing gap in our city, because we can. How we can expand green space and trails across the city. How we can deploy some $36 million in new money for neighborhood infrastructure.
Mr. Mayor, your time
And very
is up.
importantly, how we can
Mr.
keep
Mayor, your time
Greenville,
is up. We're going to go on
how
to
we
your
can keep
challenge.
Greenville the
Ms.
safest
Shane,
city in America.
Mr. Mayor.
And that's what we plan to do. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to remind y'all again that we do have time limits so we can get on. You're going to have to follow the time limits. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Shane? you may
Okay,
go
is it
ahead.
on? Can you hear me? Thank you. So 28 years ago, the mayor made a statement against his opponent. And I quote, "When people are in office too long, they just stop listening," end quote. Mayor White has stopped listening to you a long time ago. He's chasing the golden egg of top 10 list and national development rather than what the people in Greenville are telling me every day they want to see. They want something done about traffic. They want to see more balance in our growth and protect our character and green space. They want homes that they and the next generation can afford. Right now, we're really faced with an important question. Where do you want to grow from here? Without a change in the mayor's seat, we're on a crash course to have the traffic of Atlanta, the sprawl of Charlotte, and the prices of Charleston. That's why Republicans, Democrats, Independents have lined up to endorse my campaign and support me. I'm Michelle Shane, and I've been serving in Greenville for over 30 years. I was elected to 2 terms of the at-large position of City Council, where I was the Economic Development Chair. And during that time, I helped guide our revitalization at a pivotal time in the city's history, including removing the Camperdown Bridge and creating Falls Park. Helped bring about Fluor Field and the Greenville Drive baseball team. And also River Place development, which is, I think, the queen of mixed-use development, fully financially sound, and continues to be wonderful. As mayor, I'll plan for future growth while addressing the issues caused by accelerated growth, like aging infrastructure. I'll work for the people who actually live here and not just the people who visit here. I would be honored to earn your vote on November 7th, and I'd like to thank the sponsors of tonight's debate, AARP, the Chamber, and Post and Courier. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. The first question will be for Mayor Knox.
Mayor, when you first ran for mayor in 1995, you campaigned on term limits. Here, nearly 30 years later, just last week, you announced this will be your final campaign, win or lose. You cited it as a family decision. Why have you made this decision, and are we assured you won't change your mind?
Okay. Well, it certainly is a very personal decision. It's been the greatest honor of my life to serve as mayor. It's been a great honor to see people move from saying, "Oh yeah, we're Greenville, South Carolina," to being so proud to be from Greenville and proud to show it off to their friends and neighbors. So to see all that happen is something I'm deeply proud of. But in terms of city service, I'll say this. Yeah, I even voted for term limits when I was on council, but under state law, we're not allowed to have term limits. But I had term limits of a sort because every 4 years there was an election. And every 4 years, people validated that I must be doing something right, I guess. But the main thing, I guess, is deeply personal with me. I had to make a decision many years ago. I could have sought higher office. I had several opportunities to run for something else. But I didn't do that. I just realized that my heart and soul are into the city of Greenville, to urban planning and making this indeed a beautiful and livable city, and creating neighborhood associations to give voice to some 50 neighborhoods across our city. We listen to the people in the city to do the things that make Greenville what it is today. So that's where my heart is, my soul, and I've devoted my life to that, is my mission, if you will. Thank you.
I believe we have a follow-up question that we'll give to Ms. Shane, and you'll have 1 minute to answer.
In your campaign, you've made it a central message that you believe that the mayor has served far too long. What specifically, tangibly differentiates you that voters should change leadership at this point? So far, it's that you would have done it differently. How so?
When I was on the city council. Is this on? Yeah. I was part of the master plan process for the special emphasis neighborhoods. So there were 12. And recently, Furman University did a study that they did with your competing paper, the Greenville News, that talked about the census data and the loss of neighbors being pushed out of the city in those neighborhoods. Master plan, done. Let me try. Master plans were completed with urban planners who were brought in from outside, and it was costly to do that. And then the plans were done with the neighborhood so that the neighborhood had a voice in what would happen, and those plans were ignored. And so consequently, neighborhoods have seen displacement in really awkward terms. And so where we had master plans and promises, it was a breach of trust. How do you get trust back for that? And I think that's my answer.
I apologize.
Yeah, that's very unfair to Ms. Shane, because
You were there too.
no, I'm talking about very unfair to your microphone. Can I go on?
Go ahead.
Do I get a response?
No, that was a follow-up to your question.
It was? Okay.
To your term limit.
Oh, okay.
So I apologize again for the technical difficulties. I think we've used every mic in the house right now. I'm told that they are.
Can you hear us without a mic?
We're gonna talk
No?
about it and see what we can
Okay.
do with this. Hopefully those two mics will hold it closer.
If we just be still, okay.
I'm just going to hold this, and you may or may not be able to hear me. I apologize again. We're going to go on to the next question, which will be for Ms. Shane.
Ms. Shane, we've alluded to affordable housing and traffic issues. Greenville has a relatively low permanent population compared to the number of people who use the city during the day. How does the city work with the county to ensure that we have smart and sustainable growth, and both in the city and in the areas around the city limits that depend on the city?
Tourism is very important to the city. We have a hospitality tax, we have accommodations tax. It really does help. But I think occasionally that needs to be revisited. Is it bringing in enough revenue to accommodate all of the travelers and all of the workers, as Dorothy Dow referred to earlier? We have a workforce that may not live in the city but comes here and parks in our garages and parks downtown and eats in our restaurants. So we're really happy to have that. The issue for them is many can't afford to live here on their salaries. And so they're looking for attainable housing, and they might be college kids just graduating, trying to move to the city with a job, but they can't live here. So I would say part of a workforce, what we've heard the Greenville Housing Fund say, attainable housing is critical to a workforce. And if you can't live where you're going to work, it makes it harder. People who are young, and I'm not one of them anymore, but love to work and walk to coffee shops and restaurants. And they love to have amenities in their apartments. But they also are struggling to pay the rent. And so I think that we've got some more work to do about that. But it's also for teachers who make starting pay of $47,000 a year in Greenville County schools. They can't afford to live in the city, but we're asking them to serve our children. So in Fairfield County, they're doing a great project where they're building teacher housing to attract and retain teachers there. So I think I'd love to see a pilot in Greenville. So I would say affordability touches seniors on fixed income. It touches veterans on fixed income. It touches college students. It touches fire and police who cannot pay for living here. We could negotiate with some apartments and maybe get some places for them to live inside current apartments. And I know some restaurant people who are doing that now. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you have 1 minute for a rebuttal.
You ask about working with the county. I think a good example of that is our public transportation system, where the county and the city have really moved closer together on that. I'm so proud of the county for now supporting public transportation at over $2 million, by the way. So they're doing a great job with that. We created GreenLink back several years ago. It was something I was very proud of, and it absolutely changed the transportation system in our county. Long way to go. Affordable housing is a priority issue. I hope we have a chance to really talk about it tonight with real solutions, because the City Council has had as a priority affordable housing for many years. In 2018, we set up the Greenville Housing Fund and funded it with over $10 million. But more importantly, today, the City of Greenville makes the largest investment in affordable housing of any city in South Carolina. It's not even close. Our new arrangement with the Greenville Housing Fund is a $30 million commitment to affordable housing. Charleston's 24, I think it is, with a tax increase. We're $30 million with no tax increase. And I think you're going to find that what's going to happen is we're going to achieve the goal set by the Greenville Housing Fund to cut the affordable housing deficit by 1/2. In fact, we're going to exceed that, and we're going to do it more quickly than people thought.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's the real record.
All right, our next question is for the mayor.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, you hit on this briefly. I'm going to ask a follow-up on that. Accessibility of quality transit remains a critical challenge to the city and Greenville County as we try to move people to work, education, and healthcare. What plans do you have to work with the county to expand this access further?
A little history here. The Greenville Transit Authority went bankrupt twice, closed down 2 occasions. So over 10 years ago, Butch Curvin and I had an idea. We're not going to let it happen again. We created GreenLink. Throughout the old operators, the city began to operate the system. That was in 2008. After that, the GreenLink system was quickly able, number one, we didn't go bankrupt. Number two, in short order, the entire fleet was replaced with new buses or renovated buses. We moved to weekend bus service. We expanded hours. We bought Proterra buses along the way. And that's the story of GreenLink today. The fact is about public transportation is most people who use our transportation system need it to go to work or to go to the doctor. So as we begin to move forward in transportation with the county, we have 2 things that I think are a priority now. We want to move to 30-minute service. We can do that with cooperation of the county and their boost and their support for it. And secondly, looking at the reasons people use transportation in Greenville to go to work, to go to the doctor, I think we'll also move, and we should move, to a no-fee bus system, transportation system. It's being done all around the country. The amount of revenue loss is really quite small, but more importantly, the system runs more efficiently, and it really speaks to what we have as our ideal for people to go to jobs and that kind of thing. We've already done it with the trolley services. I think we should do it for our own transportation system.
Ms. Shane, you have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you very much. Regarding the transportation system that we have, much has been improved, but it's not fully developed enough to really help people get to and from work. If you work at a restaurant, you get off at 11 and the bus system closes at 8. It's hard. Several years ago, there was conversation with the mayor and council and some restaurant people about doing a park and ride system for the restaurant workers in hotel. And I think that's a really good strategy to look at to help them, because they can't afford for the parking to happen. And they're not going to go run out and move their car every 2 hours and park into the parking garages for the 8-hour shift or 10 or 12-hour shift is really hard. So I would say I like your idea about the no fee. I think that's a strategy too. But I think the transportation system is bigger than the city, it's bigger than the county, it's a regional need. And we need to have conversations with the region, the upstate region, because that's how we're going to get more federal funds to make it be stronger and serve people who are really trying to work.
Thank you, Ms. Shane.
Thank you.
Our next question is for Ms. Shane.
So the Furman study says Greenville has lost half its black population over the past 30 years. You talk about the study as a catalyst for running. I want to know specifically what your solution is that is legal and sustainable.
So, Haney Serene, I'll just give that example, has seen 85% of its population lost, but it's seen a shrinkage of its whole neighborhood down to, 1 or 2 or 3 streets. Felsie Harris, who's a friend, has watched her neighborhood get sliced and diced. I was at Sterling today with the seniors over there who are concerned about what's going on in their neighborhood. So what we're seeing is neighbors being pushed out, new developments coming in, and what's happening is they are receiving infrastructure treatment to widen the roads to allow for fire trucks. But previously, the road was too narrow for the existing residents who've lived there for 40 years. And so what does that say? The woman, Lucinda Martin, said, does that mean you didn't care if we burned up and our children burned up because you only did the road when there was a development? I think that's really hard. So I think that going back to what Furman studied, census data, is really important to assess where we are and how are we going to maintain, how can people stay in their homes? We have the 9th highest eviction rate in the country, and with that, seniors who are being evicted, veterans who are being evicted, and we're seeing an increase in homelessness. And that homelessness is spilling on to the nonprofit sector who is not being given money to deal with it. So we've seen a growth in homelessness, and then what we need, and some other cities are doing, is more supportive housing for the homeless, because many have mental health issues that need more wraparound services, that need care for their checks because they don't have a bank and they don't have a permanent address. And so I would say the ripple effect of all of this push out, I'll call it, and new development coming in is
Thank you,
people
Ms. Shane.
are struggling to stay.
Mr. Mayor, you have 1 minute for a
The
rebuttal.
best answer for the current issues with gentrification is to build more affordable housing, especially in areas like Unity Park, where we have vast acreage where there had never been a house since 1964. We're going to rebuild this neighborhood and many others, and we have real firepower now with the amount of investment we're making to make it happen. But I want to go back, because you said specifically about Haney Serene, because I think while the census data is important, it doesn't tell the whole story. It doesn't tell the story of why that particular neighborhood has a huge loss in population, and it suggests that maybe that has something to do with gentrification. No. Haney Serene lost its population well before Falls Park and those kind of things. It lost its population before 2000 when the landlords bulldozed 68 houses in one neighborhood. Why? Because the houses were not safe, and frankly, they were indecent. They were so bad that Judge Merle Code sentenced the landlord to spend a night in one of his own houses in Haney Serene. That's how bad it was in Haney Serene. But that's what happened to the housing. And that was well before any kind of growth of population in the city of Greenville. And that's
Thank
a
you,
fact.
Mr. Mayor.
But it's particularly important now we build
Thank you,
more
Mr.
affordable
Mayor.
housing.
All right, next question is for the mayor.
Okay, so in our earlier debate, Dorothy Dow's challenger said that city council should have more authority to overrule city boards and projects that impact neighborhoods. Is there more of a role the city should play, and how much power should these boards have?
Anybody hear that question? What we've done in the city, and I'm proud of all my city council, we've created across the city almost 50 neighborhood associations. When I came in as mayor, there were 6. This was part of a whole strategy of empowering neighborhoods, not only to do good things like many projects and such, but also it's given the city opportunity to know who to talk to when we have a development, when we have a change in the neighborhood. We know who the leadership is. When we just recently did an entire citywide rezone with the new land use ordinance, we had people who understood what it was about and who we could talk to. So having that feedback and that participation is extremely important. And we've given the neighborhoods the opportunity to have informal processes like never before to come and meet a developer or someone who wants to do any kind of change in the neighborhood. We require that as a matter of city law, not state law. It's our city ordinance to require that kind of thing. We want people to have the facts. We want it to be transparent, and that's really our main focus. At the end of the day, it's about the people in Greenville knowing what's best for their neighborhood, and that's what we hold at the highest esteem in the city of Greenville.
You have 1 minute for rebuttal, Ms. Shane.
Okay, thank you. I think part of your question was about boards and commissions and the Planning Commission and BZA. And so I would say one thing that needs to be studied is what we're hearing is there's a lot of conflicts of interest going on, that people are recusing themselves from a vote, and when somebody has a whole lot of recusals, that kind of jeopardizes the voting process. And so I would say we need to study that. You heard Dorothy say the law doesn't allow you to interfere with their decisions, but there is an an issue of fairness for people who have 3 minutes to talk, to have interaction with a developer at a meeting that goes from 4 to 6, and they're at work. I think that's a challenge to be met. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Ms. Shane.
Ms. Shane, the Greenville Chamber is a proud co-founder of the REAM Commission, and we've discussed housing and transit a little bit already, but what more can the city do to address race-based disparities in education, income, and health outcomes to ensure our economic prosperity is shared by all?
I'm really proud for the Chamber to be in the leadership role for this REAM Commission. What we're seeing in the city is we're not always successful attracting and retaining minority talent. They won't come here. They might go to Atlanta because they don't feel comfortable here, or they're not going to come here because we're seeing a brain drain in the state colleges and university system. But I think that if they come here, you know, a lot of parents, I've talked to a lot of mamas who want their children to move home, but if they come here, do we make them be part of the community? Do we allow them to have business through through open bid processes? Is their business being allowed to participate in the economy? They're looking for ways to grow their business, to scale their business, but if they're not allowed in the process, it holds them back, and then they don't leave, they don't stay here, they go. And they're being recruited also by venture capitalists in Denver because we're not providing it here. So we have people who are creating some pretty wonderful things, but it's walking off to another state. And I think we ought to really grab hold of that. And for helping universities keep kids here, keep their graduates here, we need to start when they're in school. Freshman year, we ought to be recruiting and involving them in internships and also letting them sit at the table of leadership. We need their decisions too. So thank you.
This is an exciting time for young professionals to be in Greenville, black and white. The Reams Commission is doing a great job, and so many others, in making this an opportunity city, because it is an opportunity city, and it's seen that way by so many young people. This is a great city now, as a minority, and really anyone, a young person, to start a business, to be a part of the Greenville community. And we're seeing it every day, especially with the younger folks, that this city is seen just that way. And I think also, symbols are important also. This is a city that when you come in on the west side of town, what's the first thing you see? You see Pearlie Harris on the BB&T building, on the mural. These symbols are important. It's important that we have Unity Park that is an invitation to everyone, once segregated parks together in one park, Unity Park, and what that means to a community and what it means to families. All of these are part of part of the whole environment, if you will, of what attracts people to our community, especially in the minority community. But again, once people get here, I think they find incredible opportunities through the Chamber and through other organizations to be a part of Greenville.
Mr. Mayor, while we continue talking about prosperity, the city recently changed its approach to economic development. What do you think are the city of Greenville's economic development challenges? How do you believe the city is addressing them? And what will you do in another term to enhance or change the current efforts?
Well, again, I think our city is the kind of city where if you were to walk around, people are very proud to be here. They're proud to say, I'm from Greenville. They're proud to, again, invite their friends and families to be here. And that feeds an amazing atmosphere for entrepreneurship. We hear it all the time. I chose to come to Greenville after surveying so many other cities. I chose to come here because Greenville's doing it the right way. And in terms of economic development, our focus has always been on a number of things. First and foremost, small business development. You can see that in our downtown, where we have a great mix of national chains with a lot of small, one-of-a-kind retail. That's what we really nurture and protect. The big chains kind of help bring in the smaller chains as well. We see it all across the corridors of the city because we're just a good place for small businesses to get started. We're also a good place for minority and women-owned businesses to get started. So that's the kind of focus we have to have as a city. And I would add also, and this kind of goes to Ms. Shane's comment, we're all aware of the importance of innovation, of having people come here and start businesses that are in the creative field, if you will, in the technology field as well. That's a special emphasis of the NEXT program, which we have funded at a very, very high level now. But it's a good partnership between the city, the county, the Chamber of Commerce, and the other organizations to make things happen.
I would say that on the economic development side, watching the city take a role where they're going to outsource it. And that's kind of a step that I'm learning about. I would work closely with GADC We already have to. I think the city and county have a lot in common and a lot to work on together for recruitment. But it's also another regional effort because Michelin does not have a border, neither does BMW, neither does Cenex. And I think we have to really pull those leaders into the opportunity. In the old days, people went on trips. Chamber took us to Austin to meet with the B School, and we learned about their incubator and kind of came home and did next. The incubator started with Michael Dell's computers when he dropped out of college, and he cried to his parents, and his parents cried to the dean, and they said, we'll adopt him. And they got a cut, 10%, and still have it. And so they continue to do that. Thank you so much.
This question is for Ms. Shane. Downtown Greenville was once lined with locally owned businesses, but as we've made the top 10 list, more and more national retailers have taken over. Small business owners say they are forced out by high rents, and it's beginning to spill over into outlying areas like West Greenville. Is this Greenville's identity going forward in the next 4 years, and what can be done to keep small businesses as part of the fabric of downtown?
I think we really have to work hard on task forces related to the chamber and the small business sector. So it's been a focus of downtown, but I'm seeing people on Lawrence Road who are excited about this downtown airport plan that could really rejuvenate them. But I'm seeing women and minority businesses who don't feel like they can get access to city contracts and to the open bid process. And so I want to throw that on there. But we have to come up with a way that lets them scale their business. And they don't want to just be little bitty anymore. Everybody wants to do it here and do it in 10 other places. We'd like for it to start here, and let's say Greenville grew that. And so I want to encourage the small business sector. So I would say we have a job to do to have this continual conversation with business, with corporate, to see what it is they're needing. And so what happens, I love to see Michelin, who spins off these companies because somebody has a great idea and they let them run with it. And so I want to see more of that. Thank you.
Let's talk small business after 2020. Across America right now, in mid-sized cities, small cities, big cities, businesses are suffering. Downtowns that once vibrant are closing up. It's even happening in Raleigh, Charlotte, in the center core. Office workers are leaving. We have office vacancies. The city of Greenville is a total outlier. We are just in the opposite situation. Our office vacancy has never been in a better shape. We've never had more retail on downtown as we have right now. And it's a good mix, by the way, of national retailers as well as local. We work really hard to do this. We help recruit, Anthropology, for example, comes to downtown Greenville. Around Anthropology, a national chain, we have 5 or 6 locally owned women's stores. That's the golden mean of what we're trying to do in our mixed use of downtown. But we're seeing something, again, in our city that you're just not seeing anyplace else. We're strong on office, we're strong on retail, we're strong on restaurants, we're strong on residential. You can't say that about any city in the Southeast, practically any city than Greenville, South Carolina.
Mayor, the city subsidizes the Greenville Convention Center to about $1 million a year. First of all, I want to know if you believe this is sustainable. And on the horizon, I know that you don't like this terminology, but are stalled plans for a convention center along the Reedy River. What do you think the vision should be for that and for both? And what is the plan?
We have a lot of major projects in downtown that are coming through the pipeline that I'm excited about. What we do in Unity Park to finish that with Mayberry Street and the like, our auditorium district, oversight to the County Square project. These are major significant projects we have to watch. But getting some kind of convention center, conference center in downtown, I think still is a high priority. We need it to support our hotel industry, our shops and stores and restaurants, and frankly, yeah, again, just the Main Street businesses on Main Street. And the conference center needs to be downtown. I mean, unless you have just a great desire for Krispy Kreme donuts, you don't really want to have a conference center out on 291 bypass. It doesn't work for people coming here. So it's very important in many respects. Let me tell you where we are now in this. We have opportunities, and a great opportunity to have free land on the Reedy River for a conference center, a perfect place to be. What we're looking at now is, having received $24 million in state money, by the way, and the cooperation of the county, and the city's commitment, we're managing to kind of sit back and say, okay, what do we really want? We don't want a big, freestanding, expensive convention center. We want more of a conference center hotel, a privately run conference center hotel, kind of like, think Hyatt in the 1980s. Let the private sector run the new conference center. Let them help us reduce our cost. The city and the county and the state can put the money into the larger ballroom facilities, for example, to make it a true conference center. But otherwise, let it be a private sector affair primarily. And that's where we are now. And if we've had a little delay in this, it's because we're getting our head around how we can make that possible. We didn't think at the beginning it was. Now we think it is, because we have a lot to offer somebody who wants to partner with the city, the county, and the state to make this happen.
So I'd like to say the convention center, which is off behind Krispy Kreme Donuts, as has been referenced, we bought that for $6.75 million when it was about to go into receivership, when hotels were about underwater. Had that closed then, it would have been a disaster for hotels. We put $22 million in that for renovation, and yes, we're losing apparently $1 million a year, but for the first time I've ever seen any plans do anything different. We're seeing the airport, downtown airport, look for ways to do a hotel on the backside and parking on the backside and a park on the backside. And anyway, I'm saying let's look at it. And I think market forces are going to drive what the mayor's talking about downtown, and let's let it. So thanks.
I turned off my mic because I think that's what's whistling. I apologize.
I think you did too.
Mr. Shane, you've now twice mentioned the downtown airport.
Yes.
And so if you talk about the airport and its environs, that area is a huge economic development opportunity, and there are plans in the works. How do you think the city can use the convention center, the airport, and all of that land surrounding it to fully maximize that as an economic asset?
I think it's a great point, because the airport, the city just underwent a study for the downtown airport region, also looking at Lawrence Road and Pleasantburg, to look at hotel possibilities, as I said, parks. They're also looking at a part of the spur for the Swamp Rabbit Trail. They're looking at for a trail around the airport park. That airport has 217 permanent planes there. It has increased some aviation mechanics and aviation, I will say, like BMW has tier 1, tier 2 suppliers to tier 3. We're seeing some aviation happen around the airport in that region. So I think that, I think it's $1 billion a year is what I read yesterday, that is generating in economic income for our community. You know, if you pair it with the convention center, is there another way to use it further for, I don't know, education? I don't know, but I think we need to explore that. We've made a big investment. And frankly, one other thing we've done, when we bought it, we didn't even know. It had an MOU agreement with Fort Bragg, so it was an evacuation site for the helicopters in a hurricane event. It was, for the hospital system, a trauma event place in case there was something that happened. It was also for GSP in the event of a air fatality. There would be an evacuation site or reunification site. So there's a lot more to it than just having conventions as well. Thanks.
The plan is, with the county, is to keep the current convention center open. It will continue to serve for local shows, like we go to Home and Garden Show, the boat show. You'll still go there. The downtown conference center is to bring out-of-town people here for our hotels and our restaurants and things like that. The bigger issue you talked about, the downtown plan, is about planning. It's true. We do a lot of planning, and we've done a lot of great plans, and Greenville implements its plans. That's why we get almost 100 different cities that come here all the time to see how we do things. We're kind of the gold standard for having a plan and sticking to it. Look at our Reedy River plan. Look at our Unity Park plan. Look at our plan for West Greenville, where we got together with Reverend Vardry Fleming years ago in the West Greenville area, and with his help and his cooperation in the neighborhood, we created over 600 new affordable houses in West Greenville, Indale Street, Joe Louis, in that area. When we have a plan, we implement the plan. And this will be no different. This will be a great plan around the airport. It'll include a lot of different features, even a skate park. Thank you.
I do want to thank our candidates for being here tonight. I want to thank AARP of South Carolina for their support, and Greenville Also want to remind everybody that you can follow coverage of this and other races at postandcourier.com/Greenville. We're going to move to our closing remarks now, and we'll go in the same order that we did. So, Mr. Mayor.
I want to go first.
You get to go
Again,
first.
I thought it worked reverse the other way. No?
No.
Okay. Thank you all very much for being here. We have a beautiful and successful city. We have an opportunity city. People come from all over America to see how we do it. A few weeks ago, we had the mayor of Charlotte here in the Charlotte Chamber of Commerce, and they had one question to me. Swamp Rabbit Trail, the green spaces. We wish we had done these things in Charlotte 30 years ago, but we didn't. The mayor of Birmingham, Alabama, recently looked at Unity Park and said, you know, we built a park very much like Unity Park just 5 years ago, in the same kind of neighborhood. It didn't occur to us to put aside land for affordable housing. And now our park is surrounded by million-dollar condos, said the mayor of Birmingham. We're the model. We're the gold standard in everything we do. We're the only city in South Carolina with a AAA bond rating from all three agencies. The only city, which has allowed us to invest further in neighborhoods. $34 million neighborhood bond this year for sidewalks, green spaces, and parks. Affordable housing at a record level, far and away more than anyone else in South Carolina, and we're getting ready to announce some big things on that. So we do these things because we have the ability to do it, and because we have a wonderful community that still values partnerships and collaboration. Those are not bad words in Greenville, South Carolina. We like that, we prefer that, and we absolutely reject toxic partisan politics. Thank you.
Okay, try this again. I want to thank our moderators, the sponsors, the Chamber, Post and Courier, AARP, and the mayor for a great debate tonight. When our city was at a pivotal turning point, I stepped up to run for city council and served 8 years. And now with Greenville at yet another crossroads, I'm stepping up once again because we need a change in perspective and a mayor who will put your voice first. After 28 years, it's time for a change. Where do you want to grow from here? I'm Michelle Shane, and I would be honored to have your vote on November 7th. Thank you for listening, and thank you to my family who's back there. I have enjoyed being here tonight, and thank you for helping us have this opportunity to talk.
Everything that happens in politics is local. It affects your neighbors, it affects your streets, your beliefs, your emotions, your pocketbook. Everything is politics.
I love covering South Carolina politics because there are so many characters, so many big personalities.
And they're just people, and their beliefs, and their attitudes, and what they do, and it's an arena.
We have some great people on our team that have just a really deep breadth of institutional knowledge about the state and about the politics that are at play.
We know the politicians. We have their cell phone numbers. We are here in the State House with them every day. If there's something that I want confirmed, I can just walk up to the representative or the senator or walk down to the governor's office and ask. The Palmetto Politics newsletter has all of our politics content in one place 3 times a week. So you'll never miss a story.
It's going to be your best source of what's breaking in politics in South Carolina. When you have an organized, dedicated 5-member political team, I mean, you try to give the most coverage, the most in-depth coverage, the most accurate coverage, the most up-to-date coverage of everything in the state, and that's what the Post and Courier is doing.